Brazil is a federation consisting of 26 federal states and one capital district called Brasilia, and Brazil is the largest country in South America, bordering all countries in South America except for Chile and Ecuador. It is the largest country and only country in the Americas to have Portuguese as an official language. Due to over a century of mass immigration from other countries around the globe, Brazil is one of the most multicultural and ethnically diverse nations. 8.5 million square kilometers make Brazil the world's 5th largest country by area, which makes it almost as large as the USA and almost as large as China. With a population of about 211 million, Brazil is the world's 6th most populous nation. Brazil's largest cities are São Paulo with an estimated 12 million inhabitants, followed by Rio de Janeiro, Brasilia, which is the capital of Brazil, and Salvador. São Paulo is just a huge vibrant metropolis and actually is considered the largest city in North and South America by Wikipedia. Brazil is known for the Amazon, for the world's largest carnival in Rio de Janeiro, for the fact that many people mistakenly think that Rio de Janeiro or São Paulo is the capital city of Brazil, for being the only country in the Americas where Portuguese is an official language, for the Olympic Games in 2016, for its in my opinion fascinating flag, and for its diverse climate. But as we will find out later, Brazil has much more than that to offer. Brazil's name comes from the pau-brasil, which is Portuguese and stands for the Brazil tree. This is the country's national tree and a natural resource that played an important role in the economic development of the nation. Since there are 26 federal states and one capital district, Brazil is very diverse not only in culture but also in nature. So therefore it is not surprising that Brazil belongs to the world's 17 mega diverse countries. 47% identify as white, 43% mixed, 7% black and 0.5% indigenous. 88% are Christians and 8% identify with no religion. Brazil is part of the BRICS states, which is a group of 5 significant emerging countries that are Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. Moreover, Brazil is part of the Mercosur, which is a South American trade bloc. The beautiful Brazilian flag has a fascinating story behind it. On a green background, it shows a yellow rhombus in which there is a dark blue circle that holds 27 stars and a banner with the inscription Ordem e Progresso. The colors green and yellow do not stand for the green color of the vast primeval forests, and yellow not for the numerous natural resources of the country, but rather green is the color of the House of Bragança, a Portuguese noble family, and yellow the Habsburgs. The blue circle symbolizes the sky, but a very specific one, namely the sky over Rio de Janeiro on November 15th, 1889 at exactly 8:30 AM. That is when the first Brazilian Republic was born. The appearance of the stars is inverted, so as if the viewer were outside of the celestial sphere and were looking at the stars over Brazil. The 27 stars stand for the 26 states of Brazil and the federal district. The number of stars increased from 21 at the beginning, over 22 and 23, up to 27 stars since 1992. The Portuguese motto Ordem e Progresso stands for order and progress. The exact colors of the flag are not defined in any legal document, which is quite unique. The national bird of Brazil is the rufous-bellied thrush, and the jaguar is considered the unofficial animal of Brazil. In Brazil, people pay with the Brazilian real. Brazil is the 12th largest economy, however the GDP per capita is just the world's 83rd largest. Brazil exports a lot of products ranging from aircrafts to steel and soybeans up to coffee and machinery. When it comes to agriculture, Brazil is one of the largest players worldwide. It is the world's largest producer of sugarcane, soybeans, coffee, oranges, guarana, and Brazil nuts, one of the top 5 producers of corns, papayas, tobacco, pineapples, banana, cotton, beans, coconuts, watermelons, and lemons, is one of the top 10 world producers of cacao beans, cashews, avocados, mangoes, rice, and tomatoes, and finally one of the top 15 world producers of grapes, apples, melons, peanuts, figs, peaches, onions, and palm oil. Historically, agriculture was one of the most important industries in the country. Today, agriculture only accounts to about 5% of the country's total economic output, but it is believed that about 25% of the economy depends on agriculture in one way or another. Brazil is also very rich in natural resources. Not only iron ore, but also copper and gold and many other raw materials are mined and sold in huge quantities. The industry sector is also developed. Embraer, for instance, is one of the world's largest manufacturer of aircrafts. Industrial production in the country contributes to about a third of the total economic output. Brazil's main export partners are China, the European Union and the USA, whereas its largest import partners are the European Union, China and the USA as well. Later in this video there will be an interview with Ümit, who moved from Germany to Paraná in the end of 2020. Ümit will talk about his journey and will provide useful information to everyone who is interested in moving to Brazil. If you have an idea which country I should cover next, please let me know down in the comments. This video is part of a video series that covers informative facts and the migration procedure of many countries around the globe. I've created videos for countless countries worldwide. You can find the playlist linked in the video description below. But let's return to Brazil. What are the main upsides of moving to Brazil and what needs to be considered? As of the 2019 UN report, Brazil ranks 63rd among the countries with the largest foreign-born population. Even though people from all over the world moved to Brazil, and even though Brazil is such a huge country, just about 800,000 people living in Brazil were not born there, but moved to this country during their lifetime. However, it is estimated that there are hundreds of thousands of foreign people living in Brazil without an official permit. The largest foreign-born populations living in Brazil are the Portuguese, followed by the Japanese, the Italians and the Paraguayans. It is interesting that especially in the 20th century, many Japanese moved to Brazil, which is the reason why today there is a big Japanese community in Brazil. But what are the advantages of moving to Brazil? Let's start with the nature of the country. Generally speaking, Brazil has a tropical climate, but since Brazil has such a big north to south expansion, there are many other types of climates present in this country. More precisely, the distance between Brazil's northernmost and Brazil's southernmost point is about 4,200 kilometers, which roughly corresponds to the distance between the Netherlands and Nigeria. Brazil therefore has about the same height as Chile. Overall, the climate is humid and tropical, but as I said, Brazil is one of those countries that is just so incredibly diverse that no matter what I say about Brazil, there for sure is one region somewhere in the country that proves the opposite. In Brazil there are even savanna regions, epic waterfalls such as the Iguazu Falls, of course the Amazon rainforest, hills and mountains, one of the most famous one probably is Mount Moraro, but also an incredible number of rivers, lakes and islands. The highest point in Brazil is the Pico da Neblina at 2,994 meters above sea level. The most important river in the country is the Amazon River, and with a water flow of about 209,000 cubic meters per second, it is by far the most water-rich river on Earth. This corresponds to a cube with a side length of 60 meters that is filled with water every single second. The Amazon is therefore richer in water than the 7 next largest rivers in the world combined. The longest flow path measures almost 6,500 kilometers, which is only exceeded by the Nile in Africa. Here, the unimaginable dimensions of Brazil become evident. I mean, in Brazil there is an island called Maranhão between the rivers Amazon and Rio Pará, which is bigger than all of Switzerland. This is just incredible. The year-round temperature in Sao Paulo is very stable, ranging from an average of 16 degrees Celsius in July up to an average of 23 degrees Celsius in February, though it can get much warmer and much colder than that. As Brazil is located in the southern hemisphere, the warmest months are January and February, and the coldest months are June, July and August. But you can expect a humid environment with a lot of rainfall. In Sao Paulo, it is raining 1 out of 3 days. Let us turn to the next big capture of Brazil, which is its biodiversity. Brazil is one of the most biodiverse countries in the world, ahead of Colombia, Mexico and Indonesia. So far, an eye-popping 55,000 flowering plants, over 3,000 freshwater fish, 921 amphibians, 749 reptiles, and 51 primate species have been discovered. The strangest animals that I could find are the giant otters, river dolphins, pecaries, maned wolves, bush dogs and South American tapirs. Not to mention the huge world of birds and plants Brazil has to offer. Due to the enormous biodiversity, the large number of species, and the diverse ecosystems, Brazil, as already mentioned, is one of the world's 17 mega-diverse countries. But on the other hand, one also has to mention that this biodiversity in nature is endangered by human activity. Unlike Chile, Brazil is safe from natural disasters like earthquakes, hurricanes or tsunamis. Next comes culture. In every big city of Brazil, there is a surprisingly high amount of public museums that are waiting for you to explore. As Brazil is inhabited by people from all regions and places worldwide, it culturally has a lot to offer. That is why the Brazilians are very open-hearted, friendly and helpful, kind of like the South Europeans. You will quickly feel integrated into the community, especially if you know Portuguese or at least Spanish. Moreover, carnivals and the Brazilian music are upsides described by people who moved to Brazil. In many places around the country, you can enjoy a high quality of life for lower prices than what you would spend in Europe or the USA. Most goods in Brazil, except for some customer goods that are taxed massively, are quite cheap compared with Europe. But we will talk about the cost of living in Brazil soon. Yet another upside is the Brazilian cuisine. First, I'll need to mention that the cuisine is diverse as people brought their local specialities from all over the world to the country. So the Brazilian cuisine is influenced by the Europeans, the Africans and Asians. Nevertheless, there are many traditional local dishes present in different parts of the country. The most famous Brazilian dishes are feijoada, maia mole, muqueca, brigadeiros, pão de queijo, as well as many different meat dishes and dishes that contain black beans. Even though I'm not German, as many of you guys think, I still would like to mention a fact about Brazil worth knowing, which is that in Brazil there are many so-called German cities. In Brazil there are German settlements whose residents speak German and follow German culture. Back in 1905 in Blumenau, a major Brazilian city with over 350,000 inhabitants, over 72% of all schools taught exclusively in German. Even today, German is spoken quite often in this city. However, many German schools were closed during the two world wars. Another German village is Pomerode, a small town with around 30,000 inhabitants, where one can find classical German houses, and the German company Bosch is the largest employer in this region. Around 90% of the population speaks German there, even more than 150 years after the city was founded. Let us talk about the cost of living in Brazil. If you live off $3,000 a month in Denver, Colorado, you need just about $1,210 for the same quality of life in Sao Paulo. Therefore, the cost of living in Sao Paulo is almost 60% lower than the cost of living in Denver. And the cost of living in rural areas of Brazil is even less. So you see that the low costs of living may also be interpreted as another upside of moving to Brazil. You can rent a small apartment in the center of Sao Paulo for $200 to $300 a month. But in spite of all these upsides, there are also some drawbacks that you will need to consider when moving to Brazil. The income inequality is among the highest worldwide. Generally speaking, criminality is also something Brazil has room for improvement. As of the Numbeo Safety Index, Florianópolis is the most secure city of all of Brazil. However, it ranks 295th among significant countries worldwide. But there are great differences between the different regions of the country. Some regions are safe, while others are pretty dangerous for foreigners. Moreover, not only income taxes, but also taxes on customer goods and on cars are very high. Some other downsides to consider are corruption and inefficient and bureaucratic government services. Let us continue with interviewing Ümit. Ümit, when did you move to Brazil and which city did you move to?
We moved in last year, December 2020, to Brazil with our 3-year-old son. And we moved to Paraná, South Brazil. It's close to the Foz do Iguaçu waterfalls. Everybody knows probably. And it's a third southern state. It's a state like Santa Catarina and Rio Grande do Sul with lots of European immigrants, Italians, Germans, Ukrainian, Polonian. So you will find here many people with names from Europe, and also the look is the same. And so also the culture. And so this is the place we like most. And this is the place where my Brazilian partner comes from.
Why did you choose Brazil?
I speak also fluent Spanish. I lived also in Cuba. It's because of my partner, as she is from here, from Brazil. And Brazil is a huge country, like a continent. It's 22 times bigger than Germany. And it's almost as big as, I think, the United States. And it offers lots of possibilities. You can find everything except, I think, skiing. So you have lots of space. You don't feel squeezed in like in other countries where the population is very dense. If you go out of the big cities, you have lots of space, and so it gives you a kind of feeling and a freedom, and I like it. Yeah.
What do you enjoy most about your life in Brazil?
The weather, the food, the easygoing lifestyle. Relaxed. Brazilians are much more relaxed, and they are very tolerant. They're open. They're curious, and it's easy to make friends. And so the Brazilians say they're jeito. Yeah? You might have heard of it, and it's a lifestyle. I don't want to say that each Brazilian is similar to other Brazilians from other regions. Depends on the region also, I think. I can speak most of my most experiences from South Brazil, like Paraná, like Curitiba, Florianopolis, Blumenau. It's a German immigrant city where you have the second biggest Oktoberfest worldwide. And so in total, yeah, you cannot compare with the lifestyle in the United States or Europe.
What do you miss about your life in Germany?
I miss the international cuisine. Possibility to go and eat Thai, for example. I like to eat Thai, Turkish restaurants, or Chinese or Asian. This is not so common here. You have Japanese immigrants who have offered sushi, but the rest is difficult to find. Where you have to go to São Paulo, I think. And São Paulo is a huge, big metropole. This is not what I actually like, to be in a very dense population and lots of cars and traffic and loud and traffic jam everywhere. So it's not what I want, and I would prefer to stay in Europe if you want to live in a big city. Yeah, that's it.
What advice would you give people who are interested in moving to Brazil?
First of all, of course, you might find a job with a profession you have, but I don't recommend to find a job. The best way to live here is to make money online in your home country, and you have also a better exchange rate. If you make money in euro or dollars and spend it here, it feels like 6 times more valuable, and you have more acquisition power. So this is what I'm doing. I found my companies in Europe, and I'm doing online business and also coaching people how to do it. I'm an expert in sourcing for Amazon FBA and Etsy selling. So this is what I'm doing. I sell physical products, I have brands, and I have many corporations. So I've built up many different income streams, so that I can actually work when I want to work and enjoy life here. So if you don't want to have a rat race 9-to-5 life here and enjoy the country, you should start beginning before you come to Brazil, making your income in your home country online. This is what I suggest.
Thank you, Ümit, for taking time to join this interview. For more information about his life in Brazil, make sure to check out his YouTube channel linked in the video description down below. But what needs to be done in order to move to Brazil? Brazil has a very liberal visa policy in place. Residents from all countries of Europe, except Moldova, as well as residents from all North and South American countries and also Australia are allowed to visit Brazil visa-free for up to 90 days. This comes in handy since it allows you to get to know Brazil a bit better before deciding to move there. In case you are planning to work in Brazil, you will need to get a work visa. The Vitem V visa is the most common working visa and is usually issued to foreign nationals entering Brazil for technical assistance, research or professional services, for a work contract or other agreements. Brazil also offers a permanent work visa for professional researchers, scientists and managers. In case you want to learn more about the different visa types that Brazil has to offer, please check out the website linked in the video description below.